Welcome to Tangent PropTech, where real estate meets innovation and goes a bit off script. I'm Edward Cohen, PropTech entrepreneur and your host, alongside my co-hosts and PropTech venture capitalists Jeffrey Berman and Zach Ahrens. On this show, we bring on a guest who's shaping the future of real estate. We dive into housing innovation, climate tech, the future of work, and everything transforming our buildings and cities. And of course, we go on some tangents. If you work in real estate, PropTech, development, or if you're just obsessed with making buildings and cities better, this show is for you. Because sometimes the best real estate ideas start with a tangent. Hi, I'm Edward Cohen. Welcome to Tangent.
And after a slight delay, this is Jeffrey Berman. I could not figure out how to unmute myself.
Today on Tangent, we have Rishard Rameez, co-founder and CEO of Zown, buyer-first real estate platform to empower people to reach home ownership faster. Hi, Rishard. Where does this podcast find you?
Hi, Edward. Pleasure to be here. Super excited to be on the podcast.
So, Rishard, let's jump into it. What's broken in home ownership?
Wait. You just said, where does this find you? You didn't tell us where you are.
Where does this podcast find you? Where do we find you today?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
That's why this is going sideways already. It's Canada. Okay.
Also,
All right.
apologies. A very quick interjection on my end. It's like own with a Z, so it's zone instead of like
Zone.
Zown. It's like own zone,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
of course.
Zone.
By the way, Edward, let's keep that in. Let's keep all this in. I mean, this is just gold.
We're in the zone now, thanks to Isabella.
Yes.
Shout out. Hi, Rishard. Hi, Toronto. Now, home ownership. What's broken? I mean, we all know the path to home ownership feels harder than ever, especially for first-time home buyers. From your perspective, what parts of the buying process are most broken right now, and how is Zown rethinking them?
I mean, the biggest part that is broken today is, especially for first-time home buyers, it's increasingly becoming almost impossible to get into home ownership. And a lot of younger folks who always wanted to have that own home are giving up on the dream of ever owning a home, just because how unaffordable it has gotten in today's world to own a home. And that is the biggest part that we see as broken in when it comes to home ownership.
So from Reddit post to product. So this all started when you sold your own home and realized just how flawed the process was. You told us earlier that you posted about it on Reddit and it blew up. So what did that moment tell you about the scale of the problem?
I was excited buying my first home, super excited, got into my first home. I also went through the process of selling my home within a year after owning the home, and got to really experience both sides of the spectrum, saving towards buying a home and also the process of selling a home. And when I sold my home, that is when I realized how much in commissions that I have to pay for real estate agents. In my case, I paid almost $70,000 worth of real estate commissions. That was almost all of my down payment that it took me years to save.
And what was the percentage?
So it's roughly 5%. Yeah, you 5% plus the HST on top of it. It all adds up at the end of the day. So was very frustrated with the process and with the fact that I had to pay so much in commissions. I took it to Reddit, where I posted my entire journey, how I felt when I sold my home, how I hated the entire experience, and went to bed. And in less than 8 hours, I think the post blew up, becoming Canada's #1 story with over 1 million people actually reading and 95% upvoting. And that's when I knew this is not just my problem. This is a problem that resonates with thousands of other folks who are in the same shoes as me. I still remember I went to the comment section. I posted a small comment that said, hey, if this comment gets enough votes, I'll actually stop what I'm doing right now and work on building a solution to this problem. And I think within a couple of hours, that comment got over, I think 5,000 to 6,000 upvotes. And that's when I knew, okay, I got to do this. The very next day, I quit everything and I started working on this.
That's amazing. Talk about striking a chord at the heart of what people care about the most, which is having their own shelter. So according to some NAR data, in January 2025, the median down payment on a medium price home in the US was over $71,000. And it's also striking to see how first-time buyers make a much smaller down payment. They put a median 9% compared to repeat home buyers, which put 23% as of this year. So striking differences between first-time home buyers and repeat buyers in this market. So talk about how Zown started and the lessons that you've come along the way. You started with a flat fee model similar to other companies that have been VC backed in the past, such as Homey, but you quickly pivoted towards focusing on buyers. So tell us how that journey went.
I think we were quick to jump into solving the problem. And we realized that it's a two-sided marketplace. You can either start from the seller or the buyer. And we decided to start from the seller because that's when I truly felt the pain because I had to pay out of my pocket. That's when we decided, okay, what are the value propositions that a realtor today provides to home sellers who are essentially looking to sell their homes? And we understood, okay, it's home valuation, time to market, marketing, sort of negotiation, and all these things. So we said, okay, 70% of this can easily be automated today using AI. We don't really need to have an agent because an agent's effectiveness is now dependent on the amount of years in experience that they have within real estate. But you have all the data you feed into a AI system that can help you with valuations, comparables, time to market, things like that. So we built a lot of AI tools. We essentially put it on our website and sort of made it open to everyone. And then instead of charging a full 3% or 2.5% commission, we started charging a flat fee of $4,999, which means people were saving on average $20,000 when they sell with us. And we saw a lot of users. I think at one point we had over 50,000 monthly active users that were coming to our website, looking at their home values, using our tools, using our AI home renovation visualizer, but they weren't actually selling their home with us. They were using all of our tools to get the information and still went ahead with their realtor that they were talking to. And this is when it kind of felt like, okay, some are selling with us, but most are actually just using our tools. So we started focusing on the bigger segment that weren't actually using us to sell their homes. And we started talking to these individuals. And we understood that when someone's looking to sell a property, they're not necessarily talking to one agent. They're talking to about 2 to 3 agents and they're interviewing and they're going to pick the best one out of them. What happened was whenever they brought up, hey, I'm also thinking of Zown, the agents will be like, hey, you're saving maybe 20,000, but also Zown might actually not be able to sell your home for what your home is worth. The feeling was let out by these other agents, which kind of makes a home seller kind of like skeptical. Okay, I'm going to pay less, but hey, what if I sell my home for 100,000 less? Even though it's not true, that feeling sort of makes people go away from Zown, still use all of our tools, but not use Zown to actually list the property on the MLS. But if you really truly take a step back and think about it, an agent, even with 10 years of 20 years of experience, they take photos, they list it on the MLS and just wait. There's nothing else that you can do to sell a home. If you price it right, if you time the market right, and all after that, you just simply wait until a buyer looks at your home, goes sees it, and is interested in placing an offer. You can't really do much in that process. So we said, okay, we want to be different. We actually want to help people sell their homes. What can we do to actually sell people's homes? We need to have access to buyers who are ready to buy these homes. Instead of relying on the real estate market or other agents to bring a buyer, what if we can build a platform where we also had buyers who are ready to buy these properties? That's when we realized, okay, what if we build a platform that we have a crazy amount of buyers who are ready to buy homes? So that way, when someone wants to sell their home, it's not just about photos or whatnot. Hey, we actually have buyers who can buy your home right now. That's how we pivoted to the buying side. That's when we said, okay, we want to be different. We want to help people buy homes sooner than later. We don't want to be competing with realtors on Facebook ads or Google ads or to get to people who are buying today. We want to go into the future. We want to bring people 12 months into the journey. Someone who is still 12,000 away from buying a home, who's saving $1,000 a month, they're still going to take about 12 more months to buy a home. But what if we give that 12,000 to them today? Would they buy a home today? And that's how we started the buying side, and we were able to bring people from the future who were thinking of buying a home in 1 year, 2 year into buying a home today by giving a portion of that real estate agent's commission towards their down payment.
Fascinating. When you're a seller, you're either going to end up listing your home with whoever gives you the highest price, right? That doesn't mean it's going to end up selling for that, or whoever your partner's cousin's best friend is, or whoever drove up to your house with the nicest car and the nicest watch, or all the above. So, okay, you're focusing on aggregating buyers and helping them get there faster, which in a way sounds like a similar premise to like the rent to own companies, except you're doing it in a different way. So talk about, how you help them bridge that gap with savings and how Zown's plan to front part of the down payment using commissions works.
Absolutely. So if you look at essentially any home, most of the time the commissions that the agent that is helping the buyer makes is roughly 2.5% to 3%. Now, the minimum down payment that is required in Canada is roughly 5%. In the US, it's roughly around 3.5%. So now that 1.5% could be almost 50% of what's needed in the US to buy a home. Essentially, what we do is we take that 2.5% or the 3%, we give almost 50% of those commissions back to the person who's buying. But instead of giving it as a cashback, which some realtors do, we give it as a upfront assistance, which they can use towards actually purchasing that property. And once they've purchased the property, Zown gets paid the commission from the seller, and we cover our fees and the down payment that we provided to these buyers. Just within almost 1.5 years, we've helped over 300 plus people go from that renting to owning a home and have completed over $300 million worth of transactions.
Fascinating. So the key difference with the cashback approach is the time when they get that money. They get it for the down payment as opposed to after.
Yeah, and because giving in post transactions means they were already able to buy that property, which means when it comes to customer acquisition, you are acquiring a customer who is already able to buy a home, which means you have to compete with every single other realtor who's also running ads to capture the same user. But we are capturing a different segment of users who are not essentially looking to buy a home today, but are in the process of buying a home within the next 12 months or 24 months. That segment, no realtor is today competing toward. That's exactly the segment that we are competing, and we are the only sole player in that segment today.
Interesting. You don't hear that often these days in the home buying, home purchasing journey. Jeffrey, from a venture backability standpoint, competing for almost home buyers, but not actual ready home buyers?
Sounds hard. How big are you guys right now? How many customers have you had if you're not comfortable sharing revenue?
Like I said, we've helped over 300 plus folks buy their first homes between both California and Canada.
What's the average purchase price for the homes?
The average purchase price is roughly about 750 to 800.
Okay, so that's about double the average home price, probably a little just under half. So these are first-time home buyers or across the board?
First-time home buyers, mostly first-time home buyers, yeah.
Interesting. So first-time home buyers that go for homes that are considerably above the average price.
Essentially, people who are making good enough money, people who are already paying more than average in rent, and have the capability to own a home at some point in time. So these are individuals who work in finance, who works in IT, who works in the metros, like, for example, Toronto, like California, in the Bay Area.
Tech forward, tech adopters. In terms of the traditional transaction, typically one agent handles everything. However, you've split the home buying journey into 4 steps and assigned specialists to each. So tell us more about that and how does that change the experience for buyers and for agents?
One of the things that when we were building Zown, I think we don't call ourselves a discounted brokerage or anything similar. We actually pride ourselves in terms of providing much better customer service than the traditional real estate agents that are out there. And we are able to repeat the same quality of service that we provide over and over again because we've sort of unbundled how a real estate agent works today. For example, if you're looking at traditional brokerages, you have a lead come in, you give it to an agent and let the agent handle from A to Z. And that experience for that person is very much going to be dependent on that agent, how that agent's circumstances are, or their moods, whatever that is. At Zown, we've taken a very different approach. We've sort of unbundled what an agent does into microservices. The first one being, hey, educating the user on the market, getting them mortgage pre-approved, providing them with resources to get started. The second step is once you've gone through that step, once you are mortgage approved, now you're looking at properties online. So you need someone to help you with essentially understanding pricing, understanding comparables, understanding schools, areas, whatnot, in terms of shortlisting properties that you want to go visit. Then the next step is essentially going to see these properties in person, where you're visiting these properties. And the last step is, once you've liked the property, you want to place an offer. This is where negotiating and getting the deal done comes into place. So instead of one agent doing all of these tasks, we've sort of divided these into different folks. And we've built AI tools to enable each person to do the same task with the highest quality over and over again, because they're specialized in just one thing. They're not doing 10 things at the time. They're not cold calling. They're not door knocking. They're not essentially also going and opening doors. They're doing what they're good at. If you're good at negotiating and getting a deal done, they're doing just that. If you're good at essentially opening doors, being welcoming, showing people around, then you are doing just that. If you are just a really good teacher who educates people on the market, whatnot, then you are doing just that. Now, this gives an opportunity for the realtors at Zown to really do what they love and offload the things that they don't like to other folks. And because of this, we are able to now build the same quality of service that is repeatable and also scalable.
I think it's fascinating from a talent acquisition and team building perspective, because I mean, oftentimes in early stage startups, I've been part of a number of these, and it's worked out to a certain degree, to more success or less at times. But oftentimes in early stage startups, people are wearing multiple hats. They want players that can sell and that can clean the toilets at the same time, basically. However, we're talking here about most people's biggest financial decision of their lives, or at least that phase of their life. So that human touch that people have been used to, that they take them by the hand throughout the whole process, is a lot, realistically, to put on some person to be the expert across that entire journey. However, you are approaching it like Toyota,
Production line,
like Toyota would. Exactly. That's interesting. Playing to people's strengths.
If you look at what a real estate agent spends most time in, it's actually marketing, cold calling people, trying to get leads. They actually spend less time on servicing a lead. And they actually spend a lot more time on nurturing, calling, taking people for coffees. We actually cut all that out and we just get right into the substance. That's essentially how we've sort of built a scalable solution. And today at Zown, a single agent does roughly about 10 to 15 transactions a month. If you look at the traditional space, most agents don't even do more than a single transaction in an entire year.
Right. Talk about, the difference in speed, the conversion, and cost, if you can speak to it. Typical buyers take around 6 months and convert at like 5%, but you built a system that closes much faster and at a much higher rate. The future of real estate is here. And by here, I mean in Las Vegas this September. Join the largest, most global gathering of industry innovators leading the change in the built world, from construction to transaction, for 3 days of networking, learning, and ecosystem advancement. With trillions of dollars of assets and the best global innovators under one roof, the future of the built world happens here at Blueprint. Blueprint 2025 takes place at the Venetian Las Vegas from September 16th to the 18th. Tangent listeners save $300 on your all-access pass by visiting blueprintvegas.com/tangent. That's blueprintvegas.com/tangent for a $300 discount for your Blueprint all-access pass. See y'all there. Quick break to tell you about today's partner, Meow. With Meow, you get one powerful business checking account. Unlike Mercury, Brex, or even JP Morgan, which effectively offer no interest, Meow lets your cash earn up to 3.52% APY on checking. That's every dollar in your account, compounding daily through their FDIC member partner banks. And you know what else? Say goodbye to fees. There's no such thing as a wire or ACH fee on Meow, domestic or international. You also get free check issuance, free check deposits, and complete spend management tools. Meow is already trusted by thousands of businesses, from seed stage founders to finance leaders. And if you've raised at least $500,000 pre-seed or seed round, you'll even get free bookkeeping. So make your cash work harder and join the companies already switching to Meow. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply. Just email Matthew at meow.com and tell him Tangent sent you. That's MATTHEW@MEOW.com. Meow Technologies is a financial technology company, not a bank or FDIC insured depository institution. Banking services are provided by Cross River Bank and Grasshopper Bank, members FDIC. The FDIC's deposit insurance coverage only protects against the failure of an FDIC insured bank. Interest rates are subject to change and may vary based on partner bank rate interest. Interest rates are subject to change and may vary based on partner bank rate sheets. Past interest rates are not a guarantee of future performance. Meow does not provide tax, legal, or investment advice. Please consult your financial, legal, or tax advisor before making any financial decisions.
I come from a very engineering background, and that's all I've done throughout my life. So for how we've treated this problem is just like that. And if you go from one step to another, then you're automatically moving forward on each step. But if you're just with one person, then it's a lot of conversations back and forth and things like that. So because of that, the way that how we built Zown, the average time that it takes for someone to transact is 60 days at Zown. And that's essentially from someone just going on our website to essentially getting a offer firmed on a property. So this is the end-to-end experience that we've provided. Instead of taking 6 months, we provide it within 60 days. And the fun fact is actually we've done now over 300 plus transactions, like I mentioned, but we've actually never met any of our buyers in person. We've already broken that definition of you have to be in person. This is a very human touch, high touch, and we've changed that. But if you go into the reviews, we have over 4.8 stars of, I think, close to 300 plus reviews. And most people say how they felt within the entire process, how they've always felt connected, all that. So with technology today, we are able to provide the same human touch, but in a different way.
We see a lot, and maybe this is happening less in some markets that are turning from sellers markets to buyer markets, but what stage of the process is taking longer? And I can see the journey approach where like, okay, we completed step one, now we're in step two. Like we're not going back to step one, you're advancing, like forward movement. However, it happens oftentimes where like you place an offer and they didn't accept your offer for whatever reason. Someone beat you, didn't like the structure, didn't like your offers. What step of the process is that? And like, how do you avoid having to make multiple offers, or how do you make that process faster?
Yeah, I mean, this is again a part of that education piece, right? One of the things that we actually do before someone goes even sees properties online or anything is really understand their affordability. Where can you buy a property without actually overpaying for the property because people are bidding, because this is the first time you're buying a home. So you have to also be financially responsible without actually maxing out everything and going all in. We provide a lot of education beforehand, before someone actually goes into the market, to help set the expectations right. Rather than, hey, let's go see properties, place some offers. Instead of that, we go in with a lot of intentionality. We tell people, hey, this is how the market is, this city is this, and based on your affordability, this is probably what we should go for. And so we set that realistic expectation from the get-go. And I think at Zown, where I think we see the most time it takes is actually in the pre-approval process, which is at the beginning of the process, where a lot of people are still in the fence, like I want to maybe wait for a few more months before I get a mortgage pre-approval. But once you've gotten a full assessment of what your affordability is, you get excited. Hey, this is what I can now afford. Instead of paying my landlord's mortgage, I can start building my own wealth.
I see. So there's always hundreds of thousands of homes being sold every month. I think last month was around 472,000 in the US. And I'm sure this is something Jeffrey's probably thinking, but what's stopping Serhant or other brokerages from trying to do this if in fact you're able to close much faster at a much higher rate?
Yeah, I think most brokerages that are out there, for Zillows or the Redfins out there, their entire business model is based on lead generation and essentially selling those leads to real estate agents to service them. And most of the business model is dependent on the real estate agent's performance and the company making money as a percentage of the closing split between the agent and the company. But at Zown, we've sort of done it very differently. Our agents don't get paid a commission. We pay them an hourly salary because we've automated most of the processes, what an agent does. For most of these big brokerages, that means they would have to let their agents know, hey, we're not going to give you 50%, 60% split anymore. Instead, you're going to take a salary. Again, not a lot of real estate agents are going to be okay with that because the business has been built in a certain way from day one. And the second part to Zown is we've gotten here after going through the entire process from selling to buying to whatnot. There's a lot of things that we've learned in the process, how to build that human connection using tech. And that is our secret sauce today. Some of them have not even seen us on a video call. We've been able to provide that human touch via text, via chat. That is what we scale today. When we started this business, we already knew this is a really hard business to get into. A lot of companies have failed. And the only way we can really excel in this industry is if we can automate truly the process, not just build tools like home valuation tools and all that people will use, but if we can automate processes, then we can win in this category. The first thing we did was we took the physical agent visits and all that out. The second thing we did was the video call that we did initially out. Now we are at the point where mostly we're using text. And we all know with the AI and with technology where we are at, that is easy to automate.
Interesting. How many of these 300 home buyers that you've helped through the journey see the home in person, or are they buying it sight unseen?
No, most of them actually, I would say 90% they see the place. I don't think we would get to that point anytime sooner, but it is going to happen, especially with new construction, where the rest of the 10% have bought new construction. There's nothing to really see. It's still being built. So all what you see is a rendering of the would-be place. Almost all these others, especially first-time home buyers, they want to see the place. They want to know where they're going to live. So not really sight unseen for not new construction.
Makes sense. And for those that are unseen, maybe one day they'll be using Enviz, one of our previous guests here. Shout out to the Australian PropTech.
Super cool company.
Yes. So agent saturation and buyer scarcity. During our previous call, you pointed out that California has around 200,000 agents for 200,000 buyers per year, plus all the future buyers they're chasing. So yeah, what does that say about how fragmented and competitive this industry really is?
I mean, it's one of the most competitive industries, right? Because everyone is looking for leads. Everyone is running Facebook ads. Everyone is running either Google ads. Everyone's knocking on doors or cold calling a bunch of same leads.
Everyone's doing Netflix shows. Yeah, same.
I think with most of these individuals that are running ads, housing is a special ad category, which limits your ability to really target granularly someone who is a certain age, whatnot. Because it is a special ad category, especially in the US and in Canada, you cannot specifically target a certain age group, certain gender, certain income. You have to target broad. Because of that, the customer acquisition cost has gone up significantly over the years. So whoever is going to win in this segment is someone who is really going to figure out to acquire customers at near zero values. And that is exactly what Zown's focus is as well. Like we are going after that customer acquisition channel while also building a world-class customer experience in at the same time.
Fascinating. Talk about the generational demand shift. You ran a survey that found 70% of Gen Z wants to own a home, which is a 20% jump from millennials. My first question is, what's wrong with Gen Z? I'm joking, but how are you designing Zown to meet that demand before they even start shopping?
A lot of mainstream media has, I think, sort of put this idea in people's head that, hey, you can never own a home in this environment today. And that has sort of driven people away from looking at even owning a home and push them into renting and use those savings that they would have used towards buying a home and invest in other opportunities. But today, we're going back to the point that people actually want to own their homes again. They're realizing, especially, I think, given the remote culture that is being established today, that a lot of people want to own a nice home, even like few hours away. Because previously, even a lot of buyers that we help today, they would have actually never been able to own a home in the city that they're working because it's almost unaffordable, especially in Toronto. But now, with the fact that either it's a hybrid workplace setting or a remote workplace setting, they have the luxury to move an hour or 2 hours away from where their workplace is and buy a home for much cheaper than they would have in the city. And that is why we see a shift in that mindset. And I think there's a significant statistics actually that's out there. Someone who owns versus rents, the difference in net worth is roughly 40x. We cannot let that gap continue to grow. We need to find solutions. We need to be innovative about how we address this solution. It's one thing to blame the supply and demand, but hey, we are in a tech community. There are other solutions that we can come up with to fix it today, even if it is a plaster.
Fair. Crazy. I mean, naturally, if you own a home versus someone who's just renting, your net worth by definition, it has to go up. So you recently raised your seed round. Congratulations. What are your top priorities for the next phase of Zown's growth?
Yeah, we raised our seed round about 3 months ago. So we're talking numbers. We went from almost zero to now close to $1 million in monthly revenue. And our next goal is to break into that 100 million yearly revenue within the next 12 months. Right now, we are going to kickstart our fundraising process in about 15 days and wrap it up in roughly 15 to 30 days post that.
Wow. That's fast.
Yes.
That's pretty fast indeed. So, curious, just you as an entrepreneur, before Zown, you launched a carpooling app that was acquired in under a year. So you are used to doing and executing fast. So what did that teach you about focus, velocity, and when to pivot?
I think at the end of the day, for us, I think our biggest moat has been speed. We are ruthless when it comes to speed. If you want to launch something, we launch tomorrow. So I think that has been the reason, I think, even what keeps us going, because it's fun to do things at that pace. And now we are used to it. And we continue to crave for it now. Part of it is building a startup. But the other side, which actually truly drives almost all of us in the team, is actually we are helping so many people transition from renting to owning a home. And that feeling, the messages that we get, the reviews that we get post-transaction is priceless. You cannot put a dollar amount or a revenue number or anything on top of it, just because at the end of the day, if nothing else, we've changed so many lives of the trajectory of so many people, because this is the first home that they bought. This is the first home probably their kids will grow up in. And that means more than revenue, building a company, or anything to me and to the entire team at Zown.
Economically or philosophically, I'm just super curious, and I've gone back and forth on this issue a bunch, but why should millennials, Gen Z, everyone, why should we own a home versus renting today?
I think there's two sides to it. One is the financial side to it. The second one is just the feeling of owning your own home. When you're owning a home, I still remember the landlord would text, hey, I'm coming to see the property. Hey, I'm thinking of selling the property. I want to increase the rent by this much. And it's just a
stability. Yeah.
The stability. It feels very unstable. Okay, if he wants to sell the property, should I now find the place again? I have to move everything again and all that stuff. It's just that mental piece that is a key piece. And the other piece, the financial side of it, when you're renting, you're paying, let's say, average $3,000 a month in rent. Now, that $3,000 a month in rent is essentially lost money. There's no way that you're going to get any part of it back, because that is going towards the landlord's mortgage, and they are essentially building equity on it every single month. Now, when you're owning the same property, you might end up paying slightly more than that $3,000 you were paying. But even if you take that interest out and the monthly interest that you will be paying, you're still building equity, because as long as your interest is not more than the monthly rent you are paying, you are always going to be in a positive in terms of financial side as well. And of course, real estate market has not been the greatest in the past 1 to 2 years. But if you zoom out, even during the 2008 crisis or even before that, if you zoom out, the real estate the market has always continued to grow roughly about 4 to 5% year over year. So now that is significant money, because most of the times it is leveraged money as well. So it's not just 5%. It's essentially, if you put 10% down, it's essentially 50% in terms of what the capital you put in.
Yeah, gets down to where people are in life and what their priorities are and their capabilities. Anyway, collaboration superpower. If you could choose one person, historic, or living to do a partnership with, who would it be?
And the more esoteric and weird, the better.
I think I'm a very spiritual person as well. So it would be a Prophet Muhammad or Jesus, who was able to uplift an entire community by doing good. And that mentality of building a community, you talk about customer acquisition, and that's the biggest customer acquisition in the world, either Christianity.
Went viral. Those
So-
two went viral, to say the least.
Yeah. So think about it, about talking about customer acquisition, and there's no better people than I would say those two.
I can only imagine like you have the power to raise people from the dead and they come back and they're like, wait a minute, you brought me back to build a real estate company?
100%. That's what we're doing, tackling most important problems. Rishard, where can Tangent listeners and future home buyers learn more about Zown and connect with you?
Absolutely. If you're in the US, go to zownhomes.com. If you're in Canada, go to zown.ca. If you are on LinkedIn, always a pleasure to connect with you, Rishard Rameez. Shoot me a message and we can always find some time to talk about home ownership.
Rishard Rameez, co-founder and CEO of Zown, the buyer-first real estate platform that empowers people to reach home ownership faster. Thank you so much for coming to Tangent today and sharing your journey and your exciting company with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, both Edward and Jeffrey.
You got it.
Muchas gracias, and thank you for listening to this episode of Tangent PropTech. If you learned something new or enjoyed the conversation, text a friend the link to this episode right now. Tangent PropTech is co-hosted by me, Edward Cohen, along with Jeffrey Berman and Zach Aarons. You can find links, resources, and ways to connect with us in the show notes, or reach out anytime at tangentcommunity@gmail.com or on LinkedIn. We love interview suggestions, topic ideas, or just a friendly hello. If you're building something impactful in real estate or tech and want to reach our audience of decision makers, investors, and operators, email us. Again, that's tangentcommunity@gmail.com.